There's a silent epidemic among older men, and no one wants to talk about it, but it's quietly ruining lives, stealing energy, damaging hearts, literally, and destroying intimacy. I'm talking about excessive masturbation in old age. If you're over 60 and still doing this frequently, you may already be seeing the warning signs. My name is Dr. Mohit Khera, and I've spent over 30 years helping men just like you protect their sexual health, vitality, and longevity. I'm a professor of urology, a men's health specialist, and a senior advisor to some of the most prestigious hospitals in the United States. I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to tell you the truth, with compassion and clarity. Most people think masturbation is safe, even healthy, and for the most part, it can be. But at your age, when your body, your hormones, your nervous system, and yes, even your heart, begin to change, what used to be harmless can now become dangerous. The very act that once brought you release could now be the reason you feel drained, foggy, and even emotionally disconnected. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the 5 real, science-backed consequences of masturbating too often in old age, some of which you've probably already noticed but never connected. More importantly, I'll show you how to regain control, restore your energy, and even reignite intimacy in your relationship, naturally. So if you've been feeling more tired, more isolated, less like yourself lately, don't go anywhere, because what I'm about to share may explain everything, and it could change the way you look at this private habit forever. Before we continue, if you care about your health and want more real, honest advice like this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell. I make these videos specifically for men like you, and if this message is hitting home, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0. I want to hear from you and make this content even better for your needs. Let's start with what most men over 60 feel but rarely talk about. That deep, lingering tiredness that just won't go away. It's not just aging. There's something else at play when you're masturbating too often at this stage in life. 1. Chronic fatigue and hormonal depletion. I still remember a patient named William. He was 68, recently retired, and came into my office looking defeated. He told me, "Doc, I sleep 8 hours a night. I eat fine, but I wake up tired. I take 2 naps a day just to feel normal. What's going on with me?" That kind of fatigue isn't unusual among older men, but what stood out was what he told me next. "I still masturbate almost every day. It's the one thing that relaxes me." Now, here's the hard truth most men never hear. As we age, testosterone, our fuel for vitality, energy, and drive, starts to drop naturally. It's part of life. But when you continue to masturbate frequently, especially without time for your body to recover, you're accelerating that depletion. Each time you ejaculate, there's a temporary drop in testosterone and dopamine, those 2 vital chemicals that give you energy, focus, and mood stability. For a man in his 30s, the body rebounds quickly. But after 60, that bounce back slows way down. That's when you start to feel it. Bone-deep tiredness, sluggish thinking, low motivation. Some men mistake it for depression or aging, when in fact, their bodies are simply being drained too often without a chance to rebuild. The body isn't a machine, it's a delicate balance. And at this stage of life, pushing it too hard, even through something as private as masturbation, can create a cycle of exhaustion and hormonal imbalance that gets harder to climb out of. William cut back to twice a week, started strength training, and worked with me on a natural testosterone support plan. Within 6 weeks, his energy started to return. His wife said he smiled more. He said he felt like he had his edge back. That's the power of understanding how your body works now. Not 10 years ago, not 20, now. But energy loss is just the beginning. What happens when the strain moves beyond fatigue and starts to impact something even more vital, your heart? What I'm about to share next might surprise you. If you're still here and this message is resonating with you, just type the number 1 in the comments so I know you're with me. Your feedback matters. Now, let's move on to the next important truth. 2. Heart strain and blood pressure spikes. A few years ago, I had a patient named Charles, 72, a soft-spoken man who prided himself on staying active. He walked daily, watched his diet, and tried to keep his health in check. But during one routine visit, he mentioned something he hadn't shared before. "I don't know if it matters," he said hesitantly, "but I still masturbate several times a week, sometimes more, depending on how stressed I feel. Lately, I've noticed my heart racing afterward. Is that normal?" That question hit me hard, because it's one I wish more men would ask before problems begin. Most people don't realize that an orgasm isn't just a physical release. It's a full cardiovascular event. Your heart rate spikes, your blood vessels constrict and dilate, your blood pressure surges. For a young man, this stress on the heart isn't usually dangerous. But in older age, especially when there's already some level of hypertension or plaque buildup, that sudden surge can be risky. Charles had borderline high blood pressure and some mild arrhythmia. Masturbating frequently, especially with high intensity, was putting real strain on a heart that couldn't recover the way it used to. He told me he often felt lightheaded or flushed afterward, like he'd just run a sprint. But unlike running, which strengthens the heart with gradual conditioning, repeated solo stimulation in older men can push the cardiovascular system to its limit, without offering the benefits of endurance training. After we adjusted his routine, encouraged rest days, and focused on heart-friendly habits like deep breathing and gentle exercise, those symptoms began to ease. More importantly, he said he stopped fearing his own body. "It's not about giving it up," he told me. "It's about understanding the cost." And he's absolutely right, because while your heart may be strong today, the real danger is what you can't feel happening beneath the surface: silent strain, cumulative pressure, and if you're not careful, it can sneak up on you. But even more surprising than what it does to your heart is what it may be doing to your mind. What if I told you this private habit might be quietly dulling your memory? Let's talk about that next. 3. Memory loss and brain fog. One afternoon, I met Robert, a retired engineer in his early 70s. He came into my office with a simple but troubling concern. "Doc, I'm forgetting things. Not big things, but little stuff. Names, where I put my keys, why I walked into a room. My wife's worried it might be early dementia, but I feel sharp some days, and foggy others. What's going on?" We ran tests. His brain scans were clear, no signs of cognitive decline. Then I asked about his daily routines, including habits most men don't think to mention. That's when he opened up. "Honestly, I still masturbate pretty regularly, sometimes once a day. It helps me sleep." I could see the hesitation in his eyes, the discomfort in saying it out loud. But I've heard it before, many times. What most men don't realize is that orgasm isn't just a physical act, it's deeply neurological. When you climax, your brain releases a surge of dopamine followed by a sharp drop. That crash, especially when it happens too often, can leave your mind in a fog. Over time, this depletes key neurotransmitters like acetylcholine and dopamine, both critical for memory, concentration, and mental clarity. At a younger age, the brain bounces back quickly, but in older men, that recovery slows. You're left in a cycle of momentary relief followed by hours, even days, of subtle fog and forgetfulness. When Robert cut back, began supplementing with omega-3s, and prioritized better sleep and hydration, his clarity noticeably improved. His wife told me, half-jokingly, "He remembers my birthday again. I'll take that as a win." This isn't about shaming the habit. It's about understanding that the brain needs rhythm and balance, especially in later years. If you're feeling cloudy, easily distracted, or forgetful, it might not be age alone. It could be what's happening behind closed doors, too often, too fast, and without recovery. But here's the part most men never expect. The changes don't stop at your mind. They can quietly reshape your emotions, your relationships, and the way you connect with the people who matter most. And that's exactly what we'll explore next. 4. Emotional isolation and relationship damage. I'll never forget the day Thomas came into my office. He was 74, tall, proud, the kind of man who rarely showed emotion. But that day, his hands trembled a little as he spoke. "Doc," he said, "my wife thinks I don't love her anymore. She says I've pulled away. She's not wrong, but I don't know how to fix it." He paused, and then quietly admitted, "I've been turning to myself instead. It's easier, I guess." That kind of honesty is rare, and it's more common than you might think. At this stage in life, when the body changes, when relationships evolve, many men retreat inward. Sometimes it's physical distance, sometimes it's emotional, and often they begin to rely more and more on solo habits like masturbation to fill a growing void, not out of lust, but out of loneliness, boredom, or a need for routine comfort. The danger isn't just physical, it's deeply emotional. Over time, this habit can begin to replace real connection. You stop reaching out, stop engaging, stop being present. The release might feel satisfying in the moment, but afterward, you're left with silence, no warmth, no closeness. And eventually, that can erode the very relationships you've spent decades building. Thomas had been married for over 40 years. He told me he didn't know how to approach his wife anymore. They hadn't been intimate in months, and he felt ashamed, not for the act itself, but for how it had created distance. Together, we worked on rebuilding that connection, not through grand gestures, but through small steps, conversation, openness, a shared walk each day, and slowly, things began to shift. This isn't about giving anything up, it's about choosing what matters most. In this season of life, connection isn't just nice to have, it's essential. Emotional intimacy is the foundation for mental health, physical well-being, and even longevity, and it begins with presence. But while emotional distance is often invisible, the next consequence is much harder to ignore, because if you keep pushing your body too far, it may start pushing back in a very real, very physical way. Let's talk about what excessive stimulation can do to the very core of your sexual function. 5. Pelvic floor weakness and erectile issues. A man named Gerald came to see me last winter. He was 78, witty, sharp, the kind of guy who made jokes even when talking about the most uncomfortable topics. But that day, there was no humor in his voice. "Doc, I'm embarrassed to even say this out loud," he started, "but I can't get or keep an erection like I used to. And worse, I've started leaking a little urine when I laugh or sneeze. What's going on with me?" I asked about his habits, his routine. That's when he told me, "I still masturbate almost every morning. I figured it was healthy. I didn't know it could cause problems." This is where most men are caught off guard. The truth is, the muscles involved in ejaculation, the pelvic floor muscles, are just like any other in your body. They need time to rest, rebuild, and recover. When you're younger, that recovery happens fast. But in your 60s, 70s, and beyond, those muscles don't bounce back the way they used to. Over time, frequent ejaculation without recovery can lead to a weakened pelvic floor. That's not just a bedroom issue, it can affect your entire quality of life. You might notice weaker erections, longer time to arousal, urinary dribbling, even lower confidence. And the worst part? Most men never make the connection between what they're doing in private and the very real physical consequences they start experiencing. With Gerald, we didn't take anything away. We simply created balance. He started pelvic floor exercises, cut his frequency in half, focused on quality over quantity. Within a couple of months, his control improved, his confidence returned, and that hopeless look in his eyes was gone. These changes don't mean your body is broken. It means it needs a different kind of care than it did 30 years ago. Your body is still capable of pleasure, connection, strength, but it's asking for help in a new way. And now that you've seen how deep these effects can run, how they touch everything from energy to emotion to performance, you might be wondering, what's next? How do you take all of this and actually move forward? That's exactly where we're headed next. 6. Closing the loop. Let's be real. After nearly 3 decades of sitting across from men of all ages, I've learned that the hardest part of this conversation isn't the science, it's the silence. Most older men have been told to just deal with it, to tough it out, to never talk about what's really happening behind closed doors. But here's the truth I've seen again and again. The ones who speak up, who face the truth, who take the time to understand their changing bodies, they're the ones who live longer, love better, and feel stronger. This isn't about shame. It's not about saying what you've done is wrong. It's about stepping into a new season of life with clarity and power. What worked in your 40s may not serve you in your 70s. That's not weakness, it's wisdom. Knowing when to shift. Knowing when to listen to your body instead of just pushing through. Knowing that taking care of your health now doesn't mean giving up your masculinity, it means preserving it. I've had men cry in my office, not because they're broken, but because for the first time, someone helped them connect the dots. The tiredness, the heart flutters, the memory slips, the emotional distance, the struggles in bed, it wasn't all just aging. There was a pattern, there was a cause, and most importantly, there was something they could do about it. You're not too old to heal. You're not too far gone to change. And no, it's not too late to feel like yourself again. The first step is awareness. The next step is action. But the most important one of all is belief. Belief that your body still matters, your relationships still matter, and your life still has so much left to offer. So now that the truth is on the table, the question becomes, what are you going to do with it? In the next few moments, I'll walk you through exactly how to turn this knowledge into a plan. Simple, natural steps to help you restore energy, rebuild connection, and reclaim control over your health. Don't miss this. It's where everything changes. 7. Conclusion: a better way forward. If you've made it this far, I want to thank you, not just for listening, but for having the courage to face a topic most men never do. You've just heard the truth that too many people keep buried, that excessive masturbation in old age can have very real, very personal consequences. It's not about guilt, it's about awareness. And now that you have it, you can finally do something different. We talked about fatigue, how that constant tiredness might be more than just getting older. We explored the silent strain on your heart and the subtle fog that can dull your memory and take the edge off your mind. We walked through the emotional toll, the quiet distance it can create between you and the people you love. And we talked about what happens when your body starts to push back, when the very parts of you that you've relied on begin to weaken under the pressure. But all of this, every insight, every truth, isn't here to scare you. It's here to give you back a sense of control, because once you understand how your body has changed, you can make choices that support where you are today, not who you were decades ago. That's not giving up your manhood, that's honoring it. I've seen it happen. I've seen men turn things around, feel stronger, sleep deeper, connect with their partners again, even rebuild the confidence they thought was lost. Not by stopping everything, but by listening to their bodies, by balancing pleasure with recovery, by choosing health one decision at a time. This isn't the end of your story, it's a new chapter, one filled with more presence, more strength, and more clarity than you may have felt in years. You have more power than you think. And the good news is, you're not doing this alone. Stick with me. In the next video, I'll show you practical steps you can start today, natural ways to support your energy, your heart, your brain, and your intimacy. You've already taken the hardest step by facing the truth. Now, let's take the next one, together. If this message spoke to you or made you see things a little differently, please take a moment to like, share, or leave a comment below. Your story might help someone else, and your voice reminds me why these conversations matter. Let's keep learning, healing, and growing together.